You got to comply. You got to go.
He can't. I never heard of a subpoena for the president's person.
Well, you said exactly that.
No.
If there was a statement that turns out to be provably untrue later, then I think the president has to be treated like everyone else. Because I think under the criminal law, everybody should be treated the same.
And lying is
criminal. I know there are people that would say the president should be treated stricter. And we used to have an era in which the president was treated much more leniently. But I think the right answer is the president should be treated, as far as the criminal law is concerned, the president's a citizen.
I don't know Putin. I have no idea. I never met Putin. I will always tell you the truth.
Do you have a relationship with Vladimir Putin, a conversational relationship, or anything that you feel you have sway or influence over his government?
I do have a relationship. I never met Putin. I don't know who Putin is. I was in Russia. I was in Moscow recently, and I spoke indirectly and directly with President Putin, who could not have been nicer. What do I have to get involved with Putin for? I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him.
You did say on 3 different occasions you had a relationship with him. Now you say there is none.
Putin even sent me a present, beautiful present, with a beautiful note. I spoke to all of his people. I was going to fire Comey, knowing there was no good time to do it. And in fact, when I decided to just do it, I said to myself, I said, you know, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story. I have no relationship with Putin. I don't think I've ever met him. I never met him. I don't think I've ever met him.
You would know it if you did, wouldn't you?
I think so, yeah, I think so. So I don't think I've ever met him. I mean, if he's in the same room or something, but I don't think so.
Never spoken to him on the phone?
I've been in Moscow. I didn't meet him in Moscow. Where?
Never spoken to him on the phone?
I have never spoken to him on the phone, no. I was in Russia. I was in Moscow recently, and I spoke indirectly and directly with President Putin, who could not have been nicer. One of the great memories of all time.
You said for 3 years, 13, 14, and 15, that you did have a relationship with him.
No, look, what do you call a relationship? I mean, he treats me with great respect. What do I have to get involved with Putin for? I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him. Putin wants to go in, and I got to know him very well because we were both on 60 Minutes. We were stablemates, and we did very well that night.
I've studied Russian intelligence activities over the years and have seen it, again, manifest in many different of our counterintelligence cases and how they have been able to get people, including inside of CIA, to become treasonous. And frequently, individuals who go along that treasonous path do not even realize they're along that path until it gets to be a bit too late.
I never met Putin. When people like me, I like them. Even Putin, you know, Putin, they want me to disavow Putin. Putin of Russia.
And then there was the fascination with who said what about Putin. Take a listen.
Now we have a lot of...
This is one where you can just kind of go to the tape on it. But Governor Pence said, inarguably, Vladimir Putin is a better leader than President Biden.
That is absolutely inaccurate.
And I just think a guy
said he's been stronger on the world stage.
No, you said leader.
All right, so let's play the tape. Dylan, this is what Pence told CNN's Dana Bash about Putin.
I think it's inarguable that Vladimir Putin has been a stronger leader in his country than Barack Obama has been in this country.
He's been a leader far more than our president has been a leader.
Donald Trump is gushing again over Vladimir Putin.
If he says great things about me, I'm going to say great things about him.
It is scary because it suggests he will let Putin do whatever Putin wants to do, and then make excuses for him.
Philip Mudd, a career intelligence analyst and executive at the CIA, FBI, and the White House National Security Council, is also troubled by Trump's declaration that he'd have a very good relationship with Putin.
In places like Europe, in places like Syria, in Iran, where America has critical policy interests, Putin has interests that are at variance. For example, in Syria, he supports the continuation of the Assad regime. The Americans obviously do not.
By contrast, experts say Putin believes Hillary Clinton will be more formidable.
Vladimir Putin would obviously prefer that Trump became president than Hillary Clinton, mostly because he really dislikes Hillary Clinton.
Some believe Putin, the former KGB officer, is manipulating Trump by stroking his ego. Former CIA Director Michael Morrell said this to ABC News.
Donald Trump didn't even understand, right, that Putin was playing him. So in Putin's mind, I have no doubt that Putin thinks that he's an unwitting agent of the Russian Federation, although Putin would never say that.
How might Putin manipulate Trump if Trump's elected?
I can imagine, at least in the early stages, Putin sort of getting Trump to believe everything that he says by flattery, by taking Trump seriously, by complimenting him on his leadership ability, and then being a bad faith negotiator, which he always is.
Two mentally unstable, aggressive men with nuclear buttons. We reached out to the Trump campaign. They wouldn't respond directly to that or to the other criticisms of Trump's compliments of Vladimir Putin. Trump himself has said that Putin's compliments of him would have, quote, zero impact on their relationship.
This is treason. What's going on here?
I'm not going to try to get into the mind of Donald Trump because I don't think there's a whole lot of space there. I think he's a kook. I think he's crazy. I think he's unfit for office. I don't think he has the temperament or judgment to be commander-in-chief. I don't think he has the temperament or judgment to be commander-in-chief. He's not fit to be president of the United States. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. Opportunistic, race-baiting, religious bigotry, xenophobia. He doesn't have the temperament or judgment to control himself. He's a jackass, and he shouldn't be commander-in-chief. We think that he's unfit for office, that he would be a terrible commander-in-chief. He doesn't have the temperament or judgment. At the end of the day, I think his temperament and judgment is not sound. And you know how you make America great again? Tell Donald Trump to go to hell.
In a breathtaking, blistering letter, the retired Navy admiral who oversaw the Osama bin Laden raid says President Trump has embarrassed, humiliated, and divided the nation, and he wants the president to revoke his security clearance as well. Let's turn to CNN's chief national security correspondent, Jim Sciutto. Jim, this is a pretty scathing letter. It's remarkable to see what this retired admiral has to say.
Yeah, just a quick word about McRaven. He's no wilting flower. He's a former Navy SEAL. He was the head of Joint Special Operations Command, in charge of all of U.S. Special Operations Forces, in charge of that during arguably the riskiest raid in recent U.S. military history, the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. And today, the strongest of words, the strongest of rebuke for the American president. He said in his op-ed, former CIA Director John Brennan, whose security clearance you revoked on Wednesday, is one of the finest public servants I have ever known. I would consider it an honor if you would revoke my security clearance as well, so I can add my name to the list of men and women who have spoken up against your presidency. I mean, even some stronger words in here. He said, through your actions, referencing the president, you have embarrassed us in the eyes of our children, humiliated us on the world stage, and worst of all, divided us as a nation. And just a final point, Jim, on the importance of folks who maintain their security clearance like this, former intelligence officials. This guy involved in literally hundreds of special operations raids, killing all the bad guys or many of the bad guys in Iraq and Afghanistan. If there was someone you wanted to consult, if there was a terror threat to the U.S. and someone you had to take out abroad, he would be the man. And that's why maintaining these clearances, it means something.
As far as the criminal law is concerned, the president's a citizen.